Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. This is our review show, one of our review show. As usual, we're recording on a Sunday morning here, and then me and Johnny's going to be in the box at Grange later, and we'll talk about all of Sunday's games. So we're talking about everything that's happened before that, and Johnny, since I suppose fresh in our minds is last night's action, Crossmaglen and Carrick, and we'll start there. Probably felt that Cross didn't, they weren't at their best. I suppose you have to give Kerr credit for that too. And there were some outstanding performances on both ends that we're probably going to talk about. But Cross, from a positive point of view, coming out of it, 6 points the difference. Ashton O'Neill getting a full game under his belt. Calvin Comiskey back into the fray, Oren Kieran back. It's looking positive for them in another 3 weeks. It'll do them no harm.
Yeah, it is. Look, that was a massive positives to take from it. And getting another full game into rain as well is important as well, along with the rest of the guys, especially Oisín O'Neill getting game time. Probably seen with Oisín probably 20 minutes ago faded a wee bit, and understandable, So if he could get maybe they've a good number of weeks now to get themselves together and gives boys a chance to get a lot fitter. Calvin Comiskey back's massive, especially for the team and leader, So look, I suppose last night I felt there was probably a wee bit of workman like. Carrick did cause us a lot of bother, particularly in the first half. I was very surprised with Loughlin in the corner. I think he was lively. He was judging the bounce. He was getting in behind. Unlucky, probably not to have a goal as well. Um, like that Achilles heel and odd times come back to haunt us where the midfielder ghosted into the edge of the square. Jack Hoynihan, I think it was, and we ended up in the scenario that young Eugene McEntee, in his first year at senior cornerback, ended up 1-on-1 with him, and they had played the high ball in, and we got caught, and then it's just wee things like that, wee lapses of concentration, that we can't be leaving them scenarios, especially when we had no fullback on the field. So look at listen, there's a lot more in Cross, like Rain probably did okay, got 6 points from through the motions. I was very impressed with Ronan Fitzpatrick, particularly in the first half when we needed someone to really stand up. Him and Keane McConville was electric. They were going at pace. When Fitzy got going, he couldn't get stopped. Keane McConville got another ball at one stage in around his half back line and went the full length of the field and put it over the bar. Was a serious score. And Fitzy was doing the same at different times. Aaron O'Neill probably was on the quieter side compared to what we've seen with him. But I thought his goal was actually a work of art. Whenever you see the replay of it, he moves across the field towards the stand side, then checks, receives the ball, but goes slightly left, and literally like it's nearly like a mini jump, slightly left, and the defender ends up hitting him in the back, and it's momentum. It's you have to appreciate the class of what he done. He used the defender's momentum to springboard off him, and he was gone. And next thing, finished the bottom corner. So I thought for all the service he got, he didn't get a lot of service. He was probably well enough marked, to be honest, and but I thought that there in particular was a work of class, and you can really see him. He has kicked on his game all year for Cross. He's been excellent, and probably, to be honest with you, Sean, as well, probably took a wee bit of while to adapt to his own game, because all year on different stages when Rain was away, he was the main talisman. He was a free taker, and you do have to, as a young fella, you have to adjust your game. I remember myself as well, whenever Oisín came back, when I was on the senior squad, and that Oisín was the main man, and then you need to learn to adapt your game and to score from play. And look at any corner forward comes off the field with 1-1 or 1-2. Look at it. there's nothing wrong with it either, and his goal was spectacular, and he set up a couple. So I've been very impressed with Aaron all year. I think he's quality. But last night in particular, Fitzy and Keane McConville were excellent, and Aaron Haughey went through a massive amount of work as well. Got a few big blockdowns, a few big massive turnovers, won a couple of kickouts. He's been excellent as well. So still a wee bit more workmanlike, but as you said at the top, Sean, massive positives to take out of it, and it's key to see some of the guys back. And I don't think there's any injuries to report, which is good news.
And for a Care Crumpling point of view, Blaine Hughes was absolutely outstanding between his saves and some of his kickouts, kicking 3 2-pointers and coming up in fifth out from play as well. When he came through on goal, he was full form on that sweeper keeper role out in front of the full back and forward a couple of times to cut out a pass. So Blaine was extraordinary, and Crumpling, they're very young, Johnny. Like you mentioned, Shay Ahern, he was only a minor, I think, last year. Yeah, the likes of Jack Cunningham, it was only a couple of years ago. He's not much older. They're very young, very inexperienced, I suppose, although they had an intermediate championship last year. But big positives for them, their team that's certainly around for a while.
Yeah, and they didn't go down without a fight. Like Cross bust out of the traps the second half and put a bit of daylight between it. But it could have been easy for some teams there, and we've seen it in senior, especially playing Cross over the years. They were maybe through the towel in, but Carrick up and rallied, and they come back at us. And as you said, Blaine was probably up there, one of the best players in the field last night. He was definitely their best player. He intercepted key balls. He actually was on for a couple more scores, and they didn't get it to him as well. He was hovering around the arc at different times, and he can kick 2-pointers. His kicking last night was excellent. He come up, he just went slate. I think everybody thought it might have dropped in the net with one, and it actually hit the side net, and like he was 65 yards out. Like it was a serious effort. Just slightly the wrong end of the post. But yeah, look at another player as well was Owen Woods. He was very, very busy last night as well. He done a Trojan walk in around the middle, break ball. Him and Adam Matters was winning break ball there. They were dangerous, and the big centre half back even got himself a big 2-pointer as well. Excellent score as well. So they do, as you said there, they're young, they've a lot to work with. They're serious height. They're a big able team. And they're only up into senior, and I think they'll take a massive amount out of this, Sean. I think, they're playing a stalwart like us, and there's no point in saying that. Like I think, what is it? We out of 24, the last 25 finals, we've been 24 of them, something like that. So to play somebody like us down in the ladder grounds, on a big championship night, and to come away, at 117, you're doing something right, and to be honest with you, it's probably something we need to look at. You need to shore up things in defence a wee bit, because conceding 117 is a bit dangerous as well, Sean. But look, it is the Athletic Grounds. It was a good open game of football. I think any neutral who was there last night would have been impressed. They were happy enough with the football that was on show, and the conditions was actually perfect. It wasn't too windy, it wasn't slippy. Excellent conditions. The field was in top shape, and yeah, I think Cruplin's got a lot to work with. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be bang there, and a good young team is what you say.
We'll jump to Friday night, Johnny. St. Peter's against Cullyhanna, and obviously we're recording before the matches on Sunday, but it's going to take a lot to top this game, Johnny. This was
Yeah.
the game of the championship so far. What a spectacle by both sides, and I mean, moral victories probably mean nothing to St. Peter's this morning or for the next couple of weeks, but they put in one hell of an effort and should have in normal time. Like they were the better team on the field.
Yeah, and look at if you hadn't got enough in normal time, you were treated to extra time. It was absolutely quality. McConville was electric. He caused so much bother to Cullyhanna. His wee jinky dummy bounces and walk around a couple of players. He's electric, and he's continuing on his good form that we've seen out of him in the championship. Moore as well was quality. You know, even Finland causing an awful bother around midfield and got 3 points, caused Cullyhanna massive problems, and it took Cullyhanna a long time. Like I said it last week, it's just adapting the life without Pierce Casey around the middle, the key man around the middle, and for large parts of that first half, you know, well, probably to be honest with you, large parts of the first probably 40 minutes, they weren't winning ball around middle. The Peters was swapping off Everton. They were winning clean ball. They were winning break ball. They were causing massive amount of bother. And probably when you're coming down the home stretch in normal time, the Peters just couldn't seem to get it together and get the ball to the right man. You know, the centre half back come up, took a shot probably from distance. Probably should have been looking to get one in closer at that stage, get the likes of Muir or get McConville on the ball, or, you know, try and work it free. McCare as well got 3 points as well, was dangerous. But like, in fairness, when Cullyhanna, when the backs was to the wall, like throughout the game, Jason Duffy was absolute quality. You know, he was my man of the match. Like in normal time, even extra time, he was good. But even the two Duffys was good. Gavin got 3 points as well. Was busy, but Jason, you know, the goal and everything he'd done, like he was taking on 3 and 4 men and boys bouncing off him and laying ball off and setting things up, and you know, he was just. I think of you know, him and Ross. I think Jason really stood out. Aidan Nugent, you know, which we've seen have massive games, especially against Mullabang at 110. He did kick a few frees and stuff like that, and had a strong enough game. Probably was a bit stronger in extra time. Particularly near the end there, we seen the crowd having a go at him, blah blah whatever, and then he turned around and put it over the bar outside the boot. You know, quality score. But there was different times. It was a bit unusual with him. There's different times it looked like his confidence was a wee bit shook. He had a couple of shots on Sean and didn't take them, which is a wee bit unlike him. And you know, I think Rory Grugan summed it up perfectly. You know, I actually watched it on Armagh TV, and I think Rory summed it up perfectly that you know, when he knows him inside out, that there was shots that he would have took on and just didn't for some reason. So I think whatever which reason, whatever way it happened, he maybe got a wee bit rattled, which is unlike Aidan, you know. So yeah, look, the standout for me was definitely Duffy. I thought he was excellent. But this game delivered on every front, and the Peters is definitely going to feel aggrieved. Probably, to be honest with you, Sean, probably missed if they probably had a wee bit more kick off the bench, they maybe could have seen it out in normal time. But I tell you what, as you said there, it was a serious game of football, and it was serious value for money, anyway, that's for sure.
It definitely was, and I know I tweeted after, Johnny, that the highlight was Ross McQuillan's goal, but you could have picked so many highlights. It was an unbelievable, for anybody that wasn't at it or didn't see it. It was definitely the game of the championship so far. It was frantic stuff. But McQuillan's goal, Johnny, you mentioned he maybe opportunity. He didn't need to ask twice. He put it over. A good turnover. I think it was Shea Hoy got a hand in. A good turnover. And McQuillan, he just eyed it up 45 metres out. Loved the keeper. And what a goal. And that was the final nail in the coffin. That was the game was done at that stage.
Yeah, look at it. Absolutely, it was, and McCree's close in finish as well. There's another man who got a goal. But I have look at you have to say as well, like the keeper was a way out because the Peters actually had the ball and you know, brought it into contact and a bad turnover, and Ross, you know, took his opportunity. What a score from distance and lobbed the keeper, you know, and he does his wee shuffle dance after it. Had a good laugh at that. You know, must give him a bit of stick and see him, but probably as well, to be honest, like when you do think back on it as well, like Keelan Reevy was awful unlucky. He had a couple of chances in normal time as well, and probably looked like when Cullyhanna had the massive momentum, like they were 7 points down at one stage coming in, and then they kicked on for the next thing, you know, they were kicking for home in normal time, and Reevy was unlucky with a couple of shots. normally you'd see him putting them over the bar. And look, it probably has to be said as well that condolences to Cullyhanna on the passing of Paddy McKeever, which is his uncle, you know. So he or sorry, would be his grandfather actually, you know, Kieran Reevy's grandfather. So you know, I'd say he knew that, you know, Paddy wasn't well and stuff as well. So he'd probably carrying a lot into the game, you know. So you know, we probably give him his dues on that one, you know, and fair play to him for putting the shoulder to the wheel for Cullyhanna, and just unlucky he didn't get the winner. To be honest, it would have been fitting, especially with his grandfather being so unwell, you know. So yeah, our send our condolences to Cullyhanna, and probably that would have been on their minds as well, because Paddy was a chairman for years at the club, and a stalwart in the club, and that doesn't come without its problems as well, Sean, you know. So yeah, Cullyhanna's into the hat for the championship draw, and I tell you what, it's coming down to the business end very quick, and they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think so. Intermediate football, there's only one game to discuss here, and it's Shane O'Neill's against Derrynoose. Now, admittedly, I was doing the hurling game in the athletic grounds on Saturday at 3 o'clock, so I only seen bits and pieces of this game. So going by what I've seen, Johnny, and speaking to a few people who were at it and watched it, I think Shane's were fairly comfortable in this game. Derrynoose really relying on frees for scores. And this was a Shane O'Neill's team that we spoke about during the week with Conor Mackin wasn't there, so a big miss for them. But the likes of Rory O'Brien standing up, Paul O'Rourke, Cialan O'Hare, although I think he only got a point. A couple of big players standing up for them, Greg McCabe, his usual self as well, Pierce Maghery. So Shane O'Neill's comfortable, as I'd mentioned, and they're through to the semis, and they'll take a bit of stopping.
Yeah, they will, and look at Mackin in Australia wouldn't have been a help for them. But look at them guys you mentioned, Maghery, you know, Greg McCabe, they were very busy. O'Hare was, you know, very busy as well. A lot of pace, getting on a lot of ball. Greg was actually unlucky he didn't get a goal as well. Had a good effort, saved down took a bit of a deflection, ended up hitting the crossbar, come back out. You know, Rory O'Brien has been excellent. You know, he's had a real good championship, going about his business. You know, former under-20s county player. You know, I think he came away with maybe 9. You know, so or 8 points actually have here. Thought it was 9. Probably worrying. Like, in fairness to Shane's, they had an axe to grind from last year. Like, Derrynoose put them out last year. They definitely had an axe to grind. Definitely got themselves together. They've been playing real well this year. You know, Dave McCabe got a couple of scores as well. I think he got 3 points, and Paul O'Rourke, the usual suspect, always pops in with a few as well. And you know, whether that be if he has to come off the bench, or he starts, you know, he's going to get you a few scores, and he got 3 as well. But probably worrying. The worrying thing for Derrynoose was that you know, they only had JJ Hughes and McNally getting scores. You know, so. And most of them, you know, as you said there, a lot of them was freeze. You know, like one man got 1-4 and the other got 4 points. You know, so look, Shane's going to be delighted. They've they've really torn things around last year. You know, and it is like some teams. Whenever you come down, and we've actually seen it with our second team as well. The same thing is sometimes it takes a while to regroup, and because you're coming down and you've lost tight games at senior, and you come down then and everybody wants a crack off you, Sean. You know, as soon as you come down, like every game's a big game for everybody you're playing, because they're saying, right, these boys come down from senior and we're going to have a crack at them, and that's the way it goes. And it does take you that wee bit of time to adapt, and to sort yourself out, and sort out whatever, you know, in house, and young players coming through. And like Grant there's a great young player along with O'Brien as well, another man who'd on the 20s experience, you know, and he's a couple of, like O'Hare, another young lad, like I mentioned previously, you know, he's been electric, he's electric pace, run all day, you know, so they have a lot of attributes. Sorted out the goalkeeper situation as well, which is massive. Didn't have a concrete one last year, was an awful problem for them. So like they've a massive amount of pluses. And but like I said, whenever you have Greg on the form that he's in around there, and even if you can get the Mackens back on the field, compared to whatever you have there on the forwards like Rory O'Brien in the form of his life, they're very, very dangerous. And they're big and strong, and they're physical, and like they'll give teams, no matter who they get now in the draw, and they're going to cause an awful lot of bother. But in saying that, look at it, Derrynoose has had a very good season. There's no point in saying. They've done real well. They've took a massive step forward, and they can be happy as well. They've a load of young players coming through. Probably a bit annoyed that they didn't get a few more boys in the score sheet like we have seen them doing, Sean, and that's probably down to good work by Shane O'Neill's in the putting out fires. And as you said, when you keep relying on points from frees and not from play, it's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, Shane's. I think they're going to have a big say in this championship. Johnny, just before we wrap up, I know there was one junior championship match yourselves in Middletown played on Thursday night in the quarterfinals. A tough defeat for you, I suppose, coming away with, I think it was 5 points in it at the end, or 4 points. So what did you make of it? Middletown deserved winners on the night, or what did you think?
Yeah, look, it definitely deserve winners. I think for what we got 1-8, and like I said last week, I'm not gonna make any other excuses for it. Like, you come away scoring 1-8, you have no business going to the next round. So, I thought I was very impressed with Middletown and the way they set up. They stayed high. We tend to play the ball out of defence. Try and look to hand pass it out of defence, probably towards the midfield area, and then look at maybe a kick pass inside or that there. And like, being straight to you, we had it was a serious breeze down there on on Thursday night, and like the first half, like even with a serious breeze, we were living in absolute scraps in the forward line. 6 or 7 ball come in like the whole of that period, like which was crazy, because we've worked on something. A couple of the players had worked on a move from the throw up and actually got ourselves a great start and got worked an excellent goal, and an unbelievable finish by Bernard Cassidy, and then just nothing after that. We didn't see a ball then for 10 or 15 minutes, like, and even then when we did get a ball, it was more lumped up than it was. You had to fight for it, and they had a full-time sweeper and play in front of me the whole game. And I thought they were very well organised. I said that. I was talking to Ronan after the game, and they knew our keeper, he'd just go long, and they'd worked on, they said that they'd worked on that, and I was fierce impressed with the way they set up. They're big and physical, they're dangerous. Probably one thing, I wouldn't make it as an excuse now, to be honest with you, but you talked about frees there. We had 2 frees. We had 3 frees inside 50 metres. And one of them was probably about the 50 metres in the second half that I took on out the sideline again, the breeze. But, and they rattled off 9. They had 10 frees, actually. 10 scoreable frees. A lot of them in the first half. Now, a couple of them were definitely frees, and no issue with that. But I definitely thought a couple of them were very, very soft, particularly in the first half. Very, very soft. And on another day, you're not going to get them. Like, if you have Falloon or Ollie Herty or a couple of guys, even if that game was in the letter grounds, you're not getting soft frees in the letter grounds. It doesn't happen. You have to work hard for them, especially in championship football. So I thought there was a couple of dubious ones, but in saying that, don't think it would have mattered the score. I think the best team won, and I think when you're not creating enough scoring chances, you're not getting enough ball into the forward line. Like I said, you've no business going on to the semi-finals. So, probably on we did play for a good period in the second half, and they'd come roaring back at them. It has to be said, and the first half performance by us, and I have no problem saying, was abysmal. We just didn't. We looked shell shocked on how to get the ball out, how to even deal with their high press, and we just looked shell shocked like we never seen it before. So it was disappointing in that regard. But look, that's football, and at the end of the day, it is your second team, and you're up against senior teams, and just like I said previously about Shane's needed that bit of time to regroup, probably as well for Cross, because we went very close in a massive amount of games last year. Very unlucky to even be relegated down into junior. Just come out on the wrong side of one point defeats, and awfully unlucky. And you actually see like some of the teams that we've actually beaten the last number of years have really kicked on at intermediate, so likes of Derrynoose, likes of Katie, these are teams that we've bet in league games and championship games over the last 3 or 4 years. That second team, and they've kicked on, so we did lose a good number of players to the seniors, and I've no problem with that, because that springboard has to be there, and that's what it's all about. And we put 2 of them on as subs, and they made a massive difference. 2 started and 2 come on as subs the second half. I was impressed with Oisín Doyle when he came on. He a lot of pace, and Paddy Kelly as well was he showed what he was about. But we really missed them guys from having them last year. You had them all year, and this year you only had them coming on as a couple of subs in a couple of games, Sean. So look, we have good young players coming through. It is a good springboard. But to be honest with you, I think that's our level. Our level, if you want the best out of what your second team is really for, I think for me at the moment, until the seniors can get a good strong panel, I think juniors your level, and you need to take your picking from that. And young players, it has to be worked. And I have to say as well, just to finish up on it, this is probably the first time as well in a long time, in a good few years, where the senior management was working with the second management and releasing them players. And like I said, the seniors last year carried a panel of probably 24 fit players, and we seen Jamie Clark having to come back, and so they needed them fellas to get out and out of their training sessions, to get out and out of, and I think the senior management has done that really, really well, and that's even with the couple of injuries that the seniors had picked up, so you need to have your squad, and the seniors are the most important team in the club. So look at it. I enjoyed working with the young lads. It's been great. It's very refreshing, so it was just a bit annoyed the way we went out, but look, at no complaints.
I think every team would have the similar feeling, Johnny, that goes out. I know I had it a couple of weeks ago. So everybody and Carcrup and St Peters and other teams like that will have that at the minute, and there's going to be enough 4 teams feeling like that.
There has to be a loser, unfortunately, to this brilliant
loser.
championship that we've seen across the board. From like any of the championship games have been good, albeit now that one was poor enough. Now well, probably the conditions was very, very tricky, but like especially in letter grounds, when the games get in there, the games have been excellent, and yeah, I'm looking forward to today, the massive games again, and another one tomorrow night.
Yeah, huge stuff. So we'll be back in part 2. We'll be looking at all of Sunday's games. So that's the end of part 1. Sunday's games there's 4, and then as Johnny mentioned, Grange and Clann on Monday night as well. So we'll take a look at all that later on in the podcast. So come back for part 2. So we're back for part 2, and we're just picking up where we left off, assessing all the games this weekend. Sunday's action then, while it's fresh in the memory, Johnny, we'll start with the Cleavey and Clann game, and we gave this a big build-up on Thursday. We wanted this so badly to be a huge contest, and it was. Went right down to the final couple of minutes. Maybe just not as exciting or as explosive as maybe I built it up to be in my own head, Johnny. But Clann, that won't mind that they were 2-point winners.
Yeah, look at it. Probably was a massive performance, and probably gave an awful lot of room to the likes of Conor Torbert, who reeled off 12 points. Other key players that you would associate, like McCambridge, normally comes up with a goal, at least comes up for a score. He didn't register. Tiernan Kelly the same, even though the two boys at different times was in there the game. probably just one of them games. Definitely found with both games. Definitely we covered the first game on Armagh TV and felt that the top end was more of the scoring goals, and we seen that with the second game as well as the first, that Maghery was to try and kick for home in the first game and didn't get over the line, and Cleavey was the exact same, didn't get over the line either. And you're probably right. I expect my expectations of this game was, it was going to be a wee bit more of a humdinger than what it was. And it just didn't pan out, But look, that's the way it goes.
And I suppose Cleavey, they'll find it tough watching that back, Johnny, because I think they had 5 or 6 shots in the first half, all dropping short. I think they only got, was it 5 points maybe in the first half, and of course they had the chance at the end. They were trailing by 2 points, and they had a chance to even have a goal at a 2-pointer or fire it around the square and hope for the best. But they passed it back a couple of times, and I suppose when you're doing that, the referee can only give you a certain amount of time, and he was always going to blow it. So they'll be kicking themselves while taking on Clann on the championship pedigree they have in the last couple of years. Cleavy's certainly they give them a real run for their money, but they'll maybe be disappointed that the left chances behind them too.
Oh, listen, and absolutely nailed the head. Like Garrett Murphy, who was their top scorer on the night with 1-2, he had the chance there coming in. The time was up. I couldn't believe the space that he actually got himself into on that right flank. And he wasn't too close to the sideline either. He was about halfway between the sideline and sort of middle of the field area and just approaching the arc. And I fully expected him to pull the trigger and go for it, and he didn't. And he especially for at that stage of the game and time you're up and the chance comes along, and they chose to move the ball around and probably try to get a hand on the ball. He had a couple of goals at 2-pointers leading up to it as well, and the two of them fell short. So I think overall in the course of the game, I believe you're right. I think they had 5 in the first half into the keeper's hands, and they probably had another 3 in the second half. And they're probably going to be kicking themselves, but like I said, take Conor Talbot out of Clann and they've coasted through games there and haven't been tested, and they were probably a wee bit below par tonight, to be honest. But it was a good, honest game. Probably felt there was 1 or 2 decisions maybe gone wrong and for Shane Murphy, and probably felt the same. Definitely felt there was a free in, and I know we'll get to that game in the first game at the last as well. So, but look, it's fine margins, and this is what happens. And I don't think Cleavey can have many complaints when I said there that you kick so many in the goalkeeper's hands, and then you have a shot for 2-pointer to tie up the game, and you don't take it on. So that's it's just one of them things. But they've had a good year. They've come back, and we've seen this do this. What they've done with Maghery in the championship as well. They've come back from what you would have said is the game is completely over, completely gone, and they believed in themselves, and they did fight back and to put themselves in a fighting position. The only thing was that Eireann was a wee bit too streetwise.
Yeah, and I think that's a point we were actually making just speaking after the game. And the age profile of Cleavey is really strong. Like, they have a lot of young fellas only coming in, the last year or two, or even the last 3 or 4 years. So there's a huge potential and a huge future in Cleavey. But Clann, you said maybe taking Conor Talbot out of it, they were average enough on the night. That argument's usually made about KI too, Johnny, about take David Clifford out of it, and they can be average enough. But they have Conor Talbot, and he had one of his finer nights, and a couple of 2-point frees and dead ball scores. But there's a couple of moments he was breaking lines. He's so light on his feet. He was nipping and out of tackles and firing it over the bar. Like, he's a man in real form, and that's why Clann are probably favourites for the championship because of him.
It's you know what, he's so silky and smooth. It's just class. It's worth the entry fee on his own just to see him, and he's just he's got that craftsmanship with him, and it's good to see him back to his best, albeit from a Crossman. But he probably struggled with a bit niggly injury with our man. We just didn't see the best of him this year, but we're starting to see the best of him now in the club championship, and he was just immense. He just different gravy. He only had 3 frees, and the rest from play, like 9. He kicked a 2-pointer as well in the middle of that, and all from play, like just quality, it's just different gravy, and the cream comes to the top, and we've seen it there with Turbo, just electric, so yeah, probably felt as well, funny, I just was chatting to Oisin O'Neill there just before I come on, and I says to him there that, probably one thing that I felt that Killeavy, the difference in Killeavy and Clann at different times as well was the physicality. Some of the smaller boys Killeavy had brought the ball into contact, and they're just stripped. They're just sort of manhandled out of the road or held up, or with certain teams get away with that. You're not going to get away with that. There's too much conditioning in them top teams, and Killeavy's still a young team. Stevie's going to get stuck into them boys a wee bit more, and they're going to come on from it, and they're probably going to put on a wee bit more size and stuff like that. But I definitely felt it there tonight that that's one thing about Clann. They're a big, strong, physical outfit, and if you're going to go into tackles, you better be prepared to fight and get out, because it's not going to be simple.
In the Madden and Maghery game, then, Johnny, 1 point the difference here. I suppose at half time it felt like Madden it felt maybe a wee bit like it did last week. I mean, you were doing the Madden Harps game, and for the first 10 or 15 minutes it was a real contest, and then Madden just took control of it, and it felt like that at half time, that Madden were well in control. But Maghery, you can never question their heart or their determination. They fought back, and Ronan Lappin got his customary goal in athletic grounds. He usually gets one, a long ball in, he punched it into the net. And I think Maghery were actually 4 up, so it was Madden that had to show a bit of battle then, and they hit 6 of the last 7 scores to win the game. So probably not a vintage performance from Madden, but I suppose not playing well and getting the job done, getting over the line, they'll take positives from that, Johnny.
Yeah, and look at it, as I said, myself and Michael done that game. They'll take massive positives out of it, but funny, we were a bit of sport there with Kieran Lynch, obviously at half time, and there's a wee bit, he said it was all the game's done and dusted, and we were like, it's definitely not done and dusted here. If you thought that, we hadn't seen Murray over the years, and it was threatening. The 3 goal chances the first half, they didn't take any of them, and I was just waiting for the next one. Like straight off the bat, straight away, Lappin put himself and nearly got a goal at the start of the game and actually went over the bar. And they always have that threat, and us and Crossmaglen, we know all about them. They stole a couple of county finals from us with long high balls into the honeypot, and next thing they end up in the net, and they've done it again. Falker reeled off for the 3 points. Robinson had a couple of lovely scores as well. He got 3, and Lappin with a big goal, and they weren't without their chances. Like if you're even looking, Niall Grimley was immense. Now it has to be said, the second half he really stood up. Well, probably throughout the whole game was probably one of Madden's best players. Unlucky not to score a couple of times in the first half, has to be said, but his midfield work, he was breaking the ball away from Creeley a lot, wasn't letting him clean catch, and Madden was getting a lot of turnovers, a lot of break ball, especially in the first half. But like Sheridan got 3 points, even Conor Grimley got 3 points, and you would have said to yourself, you're in a serious position to win the game, Sean. If you can keep Conor to 3, and I know they kept him to 4 last week, but listen, there was key scores, and for me, probably I'd say a man who had an unbelievable game of football was Smith. I thought at wing back, I thought he was immense all day long, and probably just shaded maybe man of the match for me with Grimley, and he got that all important palm over the bar as well. But in saying that, I thought Falloon, which I thought he refereed the game well, and he let it go with I thought he was as good as his performance, but to see just until the end, and definitely thought, that what do you call him? I think it was Big Lappin. I think won that big ball that came in. I thought the two arms was around him, and he managed to feed the ball out. And Porrick, I thought Maghery was the
Keith?
number 11. McKeith, yeah, the
Okay,
number
okay.
11. He had a serious game as well. He was very impressive for Maghery, and I thought he was fouled, and they didn't get anything out of both of them. And next thing the referee blew it up, so we could have actually been approaching extra time there. So, but look at, I think it was that big test that the Madden needed, and they actually showed a wee bit of steel, in something that we've been questioning from them, and they come out the other side of it, because they actually came back from being on the wrong end of it, Sean, and showed character and kicked on, and they're now up again for their dues. Now they now face Clann in the semi-final.
We'll just touch on that quickly, Johnny, because I know we've intermediate games to talk about as well. But we've Clann against Madden, as you mentioned, Crossmaglen against Cullyhanna. Two unbelievably exciting games to look forward to. It's going to be played in 3 weeks' time, but if you could have picked the draws, that's exactly what I would have wanted anyway. What do you make of it?
Yeah, look at them. I said you just before we come on at this stage, you get who you get, and that's you just have to get on with it. It's a big local derby. I think for the neutrals, they're going to be delighted with them. A couple of semi-finals. It's going to be a massive weekend of football yet again, and I don't know what way they're going to work it, but geez, it'd be great to see a double header in the letter grounds for them two semi-finals. It'd be immense, So they're two massive games, and I know ourselves and Cullyhanna they have a lot of history, a lot of stuff there, and even the game last year was a bit feisty and different things, and Rain and Eugene getting to know each other a couple of times. So yeah, look at their mates off the field, and they're going to go to war on it. So yeah, bring it on. So that's what it's all about, and the other game's not going to be soft either. Madden seems to think now they've turned a real corner, and they're a real different outfit. So they're definitely going to have to test the metal against one of the best teams in maybe Ulster at the minute is Clann.
Yeah, two huge games. We're really looking forward to them. Say 3 weeks away, so we've a bit of time to study them and everything else. The intermediate then, St Paul's beat Forkhill earlier on, Johnny, and it was at this game. A game could have gone either way, really. Both sides were on top at different periods. St Paul's had the wind in the first half and used the benefit of it. Declan McGee got a goal. They were Route One football, which maybe a throwback to the olden days, but it was really enjoyable to watch. Maghery was a handful in the edge of the square, and it was actually a long ball in. I think it was Niall McParlin dropped one, and I'll give him the credit and say it was a pass. He was possibly going for a shot as well, but it dropped in, and Maghery got a punch to it, and it come across the square, and Declan McGee was there to punch it into the net. So that was a massive score. It gave St Paul's a 6 point lead going into half time, and Forkhill come out and just switched the game completely at the start of the second half, led by Stephen Sheridan and Jamar Hall, got 2 points apiece. Cormac Toner got one, I think Owen O'Neill got one. So within the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half, it was all square. St Paul's come down the other end. I think they got 6 points on the trap to pull away again. So there was 2 points in it in the end. Possibly a draw would have been a fair result, but we'll take a winner when we have it. And St Paul's through to the next round. Johnny 119. Sorry, they scored without the talisman and McConville, but Andrew Mernon was just unbelievable in round the middle of the field as we're used to. I think he kicked 9 points in the end, a class second half, 2 pointer as well, and he was even back making blocks in his own defence. He was just immense, and I suppose with Owen McConville not there, Mernon maybe feels he has to step up a wee bit more, and he's certainly doing that.
Yeah, and McConville's an unbelievable player too. Like to be missing him, and another man that always puts in a top shift in him is Lawless around midfield as well. He always seems to come up with the goods, and he's real battle hardened. He loves it. The harder it gets, the more he likes it. And I see he reeled off 3 points as well. But has to be said, that Jamar Hall has continued his good form. He's been real steady for Falkhill. He top scored with 10 points, so any day you get 10 points as well, and he's been immense for them, him and Sheridan, this season in particular. And listen, Falkhill coming into this, if you had said before the game that they're going to get 20 points on and they would have ripped their hand off and still just come out on the wrong side of it. What a game of football. So yeah, look, at Merlin has been class, and that's you can play him any of them full forward, as we see with Armagh, even out around the middle, and he can just leap like a salmon and gets around the place. But to reel off 9 points for his club is spectacular. And listen, we talked about it after the draws and everything else, that they're going to be thereabouts, and there they are. St. Paul's into the semi-final, and there's not too many going to want to take them on, because they've got the pedigree and they've done it year in, year out. They're always bang there. And yet again, but probably have to feel a wee bit for Falkhill. There's a couple of players, like another man that's had a good year for them is young own Rolo O'Neill. He got a few points as well. He's been steady in a good few games as well, but probably the only thing, I think they only had 3 or 4 scores for Falkhill, and then nearly rattled up a couple of guys, got a point apiece, but 5 scores, whatever it was. But Jamar with the 10 points was a lot, so yeah. What more can you say? There's probably McParland. I forgot about him as well. McParland, he's very, very busy as well, but I don't know what the situation is with McConville. But I tell you what, if they could get him back on the pitch, maybe you know more about it than I do, but they could be definitely a force to be reckoned with to win this intermediate championship.
Yeah, well, they've 2 weeks off now, Johnny. So, and it's been 2 weeks since he got the injury. So, I suppose depending on how severe it is, we'll hopefully see him back in the semi-finals. You want to see all the best players playing. So, I'd love to see him back playing in the semi-final and maybe the final if they get there, obviously. But Sarsfields are not a team through, Johnny. They beat Katie here, and I was again flicking in and out of this just from Armagh TV. I suppose the first half was poor enough, Johnny. I know Sarsfields led 1-6-3 at half time. All 6 of their points were frees, and they got a goal. Their only score from play in the first half was the last kick of the ball in the first half. They got I think it was a kick out from a Katie that they turned over, and Tommy McAleenan got the goal. So in the second half, then Katie come back into it. Sean Woods again showing his scoring potential, particularly from frees, and he really stood up when Katie were reduced to 14 men. Ryan Donnelly got a red card, and it was all square then, but Sarsfield's got a goal. Paul McGowan got a penalty. He converted it. So that basically the 2 goals was the difference between the teams in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I watched this game for most of it. It was only I had to go into the letter grounds. I just missed the tail end. But yeah, look at McGowan would go finish with 1-6. But Sarsfield's really, really struggled to get going in the first half. They kicked a lot short. They kicked a lot of chances, kicked a good few of them wide, especially from play. They got it. McGowan had all from frees. The massive amount of frees is what they got in the game. Not a whole pile from play. Stevenson got a great point from play, but the sending off was key here, Sean, in this game. It was massive from Ryan Donnelly got sent off, and the only thing you can probably put it down to is absolute stupidity, and that's I even live in Katie, and I think I'd say that to myself, to be honest, because the man was on the flat of his back, and he might have went for the ball, but he ended up. It wasn't a close fist, but ended up slapping, just caught your man on the side of the head. It was just. The referee was only 2 yards away. The player was on his back on the ground. He wasn't going anywhere. So it was just a wee bit unfortunate. And I suppose he's going to be kicking himself. And as the game sort of panned out, and the way it did pan out, it was massive. But Katie did rally is what they do, and they've good players there that rallied and rallied and rallied. And Woods, like you said, but. I stuck my neck out and called Sarsfield to win this championship at the start of the year, and after seeing them today, I would question would question that just at the minute. They're going to have to show a wee bit more for me. But look, at they're into the next round. Like, that's not forgetting Katie today. Like, you take the sending off into it at real key time. And then, like, O'Hara was missing, and Galvin, you know, he was contracted, so he wasn't allowed to play. He's with the Gannon Swift. So, like, you take that into it, consideration there, Sean, and geez, I tell you what, Katie really has something there to work with, and they're probably going to be kicking themselves. You know, probably felt as well that James King, you know, they played him at 12 again today, and I'd be playing him midfield. You know, he's just, you know, I think you get a wee bit more out of him in there, you know, but that's just me. But yeah, Katie's going to be annoyed. They're going to be kicking themselves. But they're steadily moving forward, and that's what I will say. They're improving all the time. You know, they have a couple of good young players. Big Jack's there; he's coming through. Good young lad coming through. You know, so they've a lot to work with. I don't think they'll have too many guys that'll step away for next season. But as for Sarsfields, they're going to need to improve if they're going to want to win this intermediate championship, because now you're getting into the business end. And now you have to perform. Whenever you get into the semi-final, Sean, the performance levels has to go way up.
Yeah, and as you say, they're there already. So they're the third team through, with Shane O'Neill, St Paul's and Sarsfields through. And obviously Grange and Clann are in seconds, play on Monday night. So in part 3 here, we're going to hear an interview from either side. Whoever comes out on top, we'll speaking to either side. So we'll also have the draw on Monday night as well. We'll know it by the time this podcast is out. So as I say, that's all from me and Johnny, but I will have an interview with whoever comes out on top on Monday night in Claddy. So hang about for it in part 3. Johnny, brilliant to hear from you. Thanks very much for coming on once again, and I'll chat to you very soon.
Slán agus Banach.
So Daire, Grange through to the semi-finals, a really tough test against Clann in seconds there. Just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, tough test, Sean. First half we probably started slow. They got into it well, probably a couple of 2-pointer frees kept us in it. We just said at half time, they started a lot quicker than us, and we're still in the game, so we knew if we got our own game together, got through the hands a wee bit more, we kicked a few balls away. If we knew if we got through the hands a wee bit more and set up a few set plays, we'd definitely hold on in the end. But fair play to Clann, they didn't stop either. A couple of lads there, unbelievable, put in serious performances, so it was probably 50-50 on the knife edge there. They had a couple of 2-point shots, so it could have went either way, to be honest with you, Sean.
The 2-pointers were a real feature. I think you got 4 in the end, Daire. They maybe got 3 or 4 as well, so it's been a feature of the game, but certainly for your championship campaign, it's something you really seem to be working on.
Yeah, well, it's not even working on it, probably just have the shooters. You know, it's a massive advantage of the game now. We've a couple of them, and we probably always did kick them, and when they were even 1-pointers, you know, boys that could shoot from range. So if you know yourself, you land 4 or 5 of them in a game, it's some advantage. I think, what did we not 11 in the first half, and 4 or maybe 2-pointers. So, you know, it gives you some advantage on the game. And then we noticed when myself and Ethan were maybe stepping back a wee bit to try to attempt them, that wee gap was left inside, so he could play the 1-2. You know, it's bridging in between. Is it worth going for, or going for the 90% 1-pointer? You know, but hey, when they go over, they're worth it. Like.
And the goals as well. Oren, I think, got the second one there. Colm sort of bundled his way through, and the ball spilled.
Both of them weren't set plays anyway. That was pure grit. Got them over the line. I think one went off the post, and then the other one dribbled over. So here, you get them days, don't you? You know, throughout the league, we went not streak throughout the league. We won 5 and then we lost 5 in a row. And the games we lost 5 in a row, that was happening. This balls were dribbling over the eye end. You know, here you get that in football, Sean. There's a couple of boys stood up for us the other night, and each night, you know, there's boys that are flying, and then the next night they mightn't be one of the main boys. It's just, you have to take it as it comes and keep your head throughout the game. But the likes of them goals, you know, that's just on the night. There's nothing set play about them. That's football, like. And
by the time this podcast goes out there, we'll know who is playing the semi, but you can't get St Paul's, so it's going to be Shane's or Sarsfield's. But the semi-final of the championship, there's nothing easy no matter who you get.
Yeah, well, we said it even about the quarterfinals. I went to them games yesterday, and bookies never, it's sometimes massive favourites. It doesn't happen, you know, when it comes to a quarter-final stage. it's anybody's game. Semi-final will be the same. It's you could put your hand on being 1 or 2 point either way, so it doesn't really matter who we get on. We'll just prepare for it. That was probably the hardest team all year to prepare for. You could have 6 or 7 any lads landing and you don't even know who they are, county under 20s and stuff. So no, we'll see who gets picked out, and prepare. The minors have a big game on Wednesday night here. They're in the county final in Cullyhanna. So we'll let them boys have a couple of nights off after that, and then we'll see who we are, and we'll take it from there.
Good stuff, Daire. Thanks.
Alright, Sean, no bother.